So it was already traumatic living through this event. Do you have to relive the event when you write about it? A lot of people have difficult events that they want to write about in their books. Unfortunately, this can sometimes have the effect of making you live through that trauma all over again. Is there a way to get past this? So when my students ask me, how do I keep this from happening? How do I keep from reliving this trauma? I'm reminded of a client I had, and I'm reminded of him not because his life was particularly traumatic, but rather because he was a cognitive behavioral therapist. And his job, he worked for the military, was to work with ex-soldiers and help them process what they'd lived through. They'd lived through a lot of violence, they'd been in combat, and a lot of this was having an effect on their lives. These experiences, these traumatic experiences, weren't allowing them to live normal lives. So what he did was he actually had them relive these traumatic experiences. So the idea was not to cause them more suffering. In fact, it was to help alleviate their suffering. The idea was that the more they relived these experiences, the more they went back to these memories, the less these memories would hurt them. These memories would quit having power over their lives. The more they relived these horrible events, the less the horror invaded itself in their lives. So cognitive behavioral therapies call this reliving. And the idea is that you work through your memories until they no longer have a negative effect on your life. They no longer have power over you. So in fact, one of the methods that CBT therapists use is to have you write about your experiences. And the idea is that by writing about a painful experience, you'll gain new perspective, you'll gain new insight. You'll see the event in a new way, and you'll actually change your perception of what happened to you. So in other words, while it might be painful to write about traumatic events, what you're actually doing is processing these events. You're understanding them in a new way. And in the end, you're actually healing yourself. So the title of this video is How Do I Keep from Reliving Trauma When Writing About Painful Experiences? Or something like that. I'll probably change it by the time I put it up. But the question I asked at the outset is, how do you keep from reliving the trauma? And the answer is that you don't. The answer is that you actually run toward this trauma. The only way to recover from trauma is to go toward it and to deal with it. And so writing about painful experience is not going to be easy, but the more you do it, the less it will hurt. Writing about your trauma can actually make you a much happier person. If you break a bone, your doctor has to reset the bone, has to realign the bone so that your arm doesn't grow crooked. You want your arm to grow straight. And the process of realigning this bone is incredibly painful. But in doing so, the doctor is assuring that you're going to have a well-functioning arm that serves you, that doesn't jut out at an angle. So writing your memoir is very similar. You have to go, it's gonna hurt really badly, but in the end, that's what's going to heal you. It's getting you to a much better place. So the other thing to keep in mind is that the realizations and the insight you gain by reliving this event, by putting it down on paper, this insight is something that will help other people too, other people who have gone through similar situations. So while you're healing yourself, you're also healing other people. So I found this quote on Twitter. It was written by a cognitive behavioral therapist. He says, "And by allowing yourself to sit with the memory, aspects of it may become clearer, new pieces of the puzzle may emerge, and new perspectives may be gained." New perspectives may be gained. I love that. In fact, to me, that is why I read books. I read books to get a new way of looking at the world, a new way of understanding the people around me. Take heart, don't give up. It's a tough process, but it's going to come through for you in the end. If you'd like a free class on memoir writing, click on the link in the description below this video.